We gonna play the game, the PlayStation all day, with the Metal Gear Solid to Tekken 3, and from Omega Boost to Resident Evil. Just play for the fun, cause we got it going on.
Hello, Ryan here, and I am back with the second part of my look at the Legend of Dragoon. So, if you haven't watched the first video, it's not really necessary. I just kind of played through the first half hour of the game and watch all the cutscenes and kind of discuss a little bit about how this was a game that I sort of bounced off of back in the day, and I'm trying to kind of revisit it now to see if, my opinion has changed, or, if those kind of negatives are even more amplified now. So, alright, so this is my first actual battle on the world map. I didn't know that that could even happen. Yeah, because it's so linear, that's interesting. It kind of reminded me of like Final Fantasy Tactics. Let's see, guard here, get some life back.
Yes.
Alright. I'm actually I'm gonna fight some battles and I guess grind a little bit here. Because, in the meantime, from my first playthrough to this one, I read some reviews of the game from back in 2000 when it came out, and I also read a little bit about the making of the game and the development of it, and the producer on this, the kind of team lead on this game, is actually Shuhei Yoshida. Who's, still like a really prominent figure at PlayStation now. Or PlayStation currently, not PlayStation Now necessarily, not the streaming service. But yeah, so he led this team of like 100 plus employees. And it was, I think the biggest internal team that Sony had for a game up to that point, which is interesting, and also that it was, done by the, the, I guess, studio that we now know as Japan Studio, who are responsible for like most of the internal Sony projects coming out that are developed in Japan. So, even collaborations and stuff like Bloodborne, they have had a hand in. So, a pretty legendary studio. And something interesting, there's a PlayStation blog post about this game by Shuhei Yoshida, and the post was from like 2012 when the game was being released on PSN, and he wrote something along the lines of that the teams that they were hiring for was all kind of simultaneous. They were hiring at Japan Studio for this game, and for Ape Escape, and for Ico. And if you're familiar with the history of Ico, that game, you know, it obviously released on the PS2 eventually, but it was originally planned for the PS1. So that was something interesting in that blog post. And also there was a Legend of Dragoon 2 in pre-production, but Shuhei Yoshida said in the blog post that it was canceled for reasons unknown to him. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. I do know, you know, this is a series that does have some diehard fans who are definitely clamoring for a sequel. I don't know how likely that is ever, really. But, you know, I don't know. Sony has been pulling off some pretty unlikely things lately. So, I mean, I guess we'll always be watching at E3. But yeah, so that's kind of the more positive side of this game. But I read a couple reviews though that you know, from 2000 that were not very positive, and those were the reviews from IGN and GameSpot, which are, you know, those are still up on those sites if you want to read them. But yeah, a lot of the complaints that they sort of leveled against the game are actually, you know, ones that I was talking about in the first episode. The additions, you know, that bonus hit in combat that, you know, requiring a bit too much precision, especially when you get into like the counterattacking and all that, which yeah, I definitely feel is the case. And then also they kind of cited the sort of bland story and characters, which doesn't appear to really improve throughout the whole game. So that's unfortunate. I was hoping that maybe it would go in a pretty weird direction at some point, as you know, JRPGs of this era oftentimes did, but it doesn't. It seems to kind of follow a really traditional structure, which it's a little bit of a bummer, but you know, it's not a total deal breaker.
Yes.
But yeah, the reviews did mention some pretty interesting areas coming up, like in specifically like disc, I think like disc 2 and disc 3, which that's cool. I'm always into like cool art design and stuff, and you know, it's not really that hard for me to kind of you know, mentally bring myself back to this time period. Like I feel like I'm playing this game right now as, you know, I'm playing it as a game from 2000 on the PS1. It's you know, this isn't really like it's not something like I can't stand to look at in 2017 or anything. Like, obviously, you know, it is what it is, but I don't know. I feel like I'm back in that late 90s, early 2000s JRPG zone. But, you know, I mean, even at this time though, like, this game is pretty remarkable looking, but you know, we did have, you know, the Dreamcast was already out at this point, and I mean, Squaresoft, or, you know, they're Square Enix, you know, they were still Squaresoft at the time. I mean, oops, why did I even do that? I mean, they were firing on all cylinders, like, visually. You know, Squaresoft games of this era were just incredible. Like Legend of Mana, Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy 8 and 9 had just completely raised the bar for visuals on the PlayStation. And the Dreamcast was out. Grandia 2 was on its way. It was not out at this time, but that was the first JRPG of the early 2000s that really impressed me visually. And then Skies of Arcadia would come out, and then the next year Final Fantasy X would hit. So the competition was stiff at the time. But I still think this game definitely had a lot going for it visually. Just saving here just in case I get to a tough battle. I don't want to lose all that 10 minutes of grinding I did there. Alright, so I am going to move on to the next area now. Well, not until after this battle, I guess.
Yes!
Oh, here's the prison. Time to hopefully rescue Shana? Was that her name? Shana? Shana? Shannon? Shantae? Shana? Shana? I don't know. So I just had to press X at that prompt there. I guess that's it. I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't pressed the button in time. I wonder if it would have been a battle or if it would have been game over. I hope this game doesn't have stealth sections. The save point again. I do really like this this menu music. Reminds me so much of Parasite Eve, which is another one of my my absolute favorite PS1 RPGs. Oops. a battle. Yeah, I mean, I guess Parasite Eve was another one that really pushed the raised the bar for PS1 visuals and I guess cinematic storytelling as well.
Yes.
Man, those are hard to hit. it does not get easier. Yeah, I was reading that guarding is a super viable and necessary strategy in this game.
Yes. Double slash.
There we go. There's that double slash. Yeah, like I'm not even going to mess with with stealth. I don't really care if I'm seen by these weird Voldo men.
Yes. Double slash. Yes. Double slash.
Alright, okay, so I do have Volcano here. So I'll switch over and try that. I did read that apparently these attacks, the edition ones, become more and more demanding with the timed button presses, so I'm... It's funny. So I'm kind of like not super excited about getting to the harder ones, like at all, really. Yeah, I've never really been a huge fan of like the timed time button presses. Oh man, see, it's, yeah, I don't want to mess with all this. X and then O. You know, I don't mind that sort of stuff to an extent in like the Mario RPG games, because those are pretty forgiving. They give you pretty big windows to for your timed button presses, and they're pretty intuitive too. Like, it just kind of feels right, more than trying to like line up like a rhythm game style indicator. But yeah, I don't know. This is just a little bit brutal. I mean, maybe I guess if I grind and level up enough, it won't make a huge difference. I don't want to be in like a super intense boss battle where I'm required to hit all those addition attacks perfectly to beat the boss. Like I hope the game doesn't become that. Missed a treasure chest there. What is this? Oops. Is that a treasure chest? It's hard to tell sometimes with these pre-rendered backgrounds, especially like I'm, playing this on a 1080p computer monitor. I'm not on a CRT or anything, which would be the ideal way to play. But so things are a little bit blurry. Looks like the text got jumbled there. I'm playing the PSN version on a PS3. I wonder if that's an error with the disc or with the downloaded version on the PS3. That's interesting. Whoa, who's this guy? He's a silly guy. That's who that guy is. Lovitz Slambert. Oh my goodness. That is a name. That is a name. Wow. Ooh, party member combat. Pretty exciting considering I've been kind of fighting solo so far. But does that mean that he has his own timed attack things that I have to learn too? It's like I was just getting the double slash. Okay, so it's the same. Harpoon!
Yes! Double flash! Yes! Double flash! Harpoon! Yes! Double.
I mean, I will admit, like when the timed attacks do work, I mean, not when they do work, when I actually do them correctly, I should say. I guess it does make battles a little more interesting. I don't know how differently I'd feel if this was just like, hitting a menu command and just waiting, especially with like kind of how slow these battles are to load and everything. So I don't know, maybe it's a good thing, but I definitely feel like they could be I think the system could be improved upon. The mechanic could be improved, for sure. Either with better indicators or a bigger, less punishing window of time or something. But right now, though, I'm trying to make sense of that sentence there. You said dart. Is that okay? Okay. Because it's a JRPG, man. This is just how this stuff works. Or that. Okay, let's see. Oh no. Huh. Man, there are a lot of areas to kind of comb through here. There are a lot of arrows pointing. I mean, that's a funny reminder of you know, pre-rendered backgrounds in games. Well, that's weird. A bit of platforming there. Having to have arrows to show you like how to leave a room, because it wasn't always clear with the backgrounds of these games. But that said, I still is that a loop? I still absolutely adore pre-rendered backgrounds on the PS1. Yeah, especially like the really, really good ones, and you know, stuff like Resident Evil 3 and Final Fantasy 9. Like, oh man, that's good stuff.
Yes! Double slash! Harpoon! Yes! Double slash! Harpoon!
Yeah, those are some long battles, especially with the load times before and after. You could see that getting pretty irritating. Okay, so this is just like a circle here. I cannot go back down that. Yeah, it's funny. You know, I mentioned those GameSpot and IGN reviews that I read earlier, and kind of a common thread between them was I definitely could feel, I could get a sense of the early underpinnings of JRPG resentment. You know, because this was when the genre was in its prime, at least in North America, where we were getting these games and there was like less of a turnaround compared to how it was in the 8-bit and 16-bit eras. And you know, PS1 was like just the home of the genre, and I mean there were so many good ones, and like it, you know, these were like, they were kind of becoming like mainstream games for the first time. You know, that Final Fantasy VII effect sent huge ripples, but you know, this is 2000, and I definitely can kind of feel the first in the, you know, with the reviewers kind of talking about you know, some of the tropes of this game, and you know, the frustration with the random battles. There were definitely complaints about random battles in there, and what else? Yeah, but you know, some of the, you know, characteristics of, you know, JRPGs, there was it almost felt like kind of the beginning of the JRPG backlash that we would see kind of, you know, after Final Fantasy X through like the rest of the 2000s, and you know, even oh my goodness, sorry, I keep walking back and forth here, but yeah, you know, the stuff that people still kind of complain about now, even though I feel like JRPGs are starting to come back into vogue a bit, while not technically a JRPG. You know, Zelda Breath of the Wild has been like a huge critical hit this year, and you know, Persona 5 has been pretty beloved. Last year, Final Fantasy 15, people really liked that, myself included. And I don't know, I feel like JRPG is less of a dirty word, you know, this year than it was maybe 5 years ago. But yeah, like those initial that initial kind of resentment of the genre, I could feel it kind of coming out here in some of these reviews, and you know, that's something that would, you know, continue, and it would also God, it's locked. But I think that would, you know, in a few years later, I feel like the sort of rise of Western RPGs would begin, and it would kind of begin over on the Xbox in, you know, 2002, 2003, with stuff like, you know, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind and Fable and Knights of the Old Republic, stuff like that, I think would kind of come to define what RPGs are. Well, not what they are, but you know, that's where I felt like the shift kind of occurred from Japanese RPGs to Western style ones, and maybe it's partially Legend of Dragoon's fault, but I don't know. I mean, it's not really a big deal because I've kind of always enjoyed both Western and Japanese RPGs. I like Elder Scrolls and I like Dragon Quest, and it's not really been a big deal for me, but I was kind of resentful for a few years there while you know, JRPGs were always getting kind of slagged off in the press, but you know, they were thriving on handhelds. Just you know, hadn't been doing super well on consoles for a while. This is very silly. Like, this is very tropey and goofy. Probably don't want to go up here and fight all those dudes, and the game's not gonna let me, so alright, so yeah, it's gonna... And I mean, I do feel like, you know, restrictions and choreographed bits like we just saw there, God, the door is unlocked, are, you know, some of the reasons that the anti-JRPG backlash started, and why for a lot of people stuff like Morrowind was so refreshing, where you could just kind of do whatever you want in any situation, and you know, everyone's experience was kind of different, and the games were super replayable and all of that, which, you know, JRPGs of this time period, not all of them are. So I still love them though. And I'm kind of warming up to this one. But oh my goodness, are these battles slow. Maybe a better strategy would be to take out a few, like a couple of these guys, and then when there's just one of them remaining, to use guard. Because I do have to, you know, recover my hit points and keep my damage down. It's just kind of the way it is here.
Yes.
Because I don't have healing spells or anything, and I only have a handful of healing potions, so yeah.
Harpoon. Yes. Double slash.
Man, I don't even remember which way I came through. It's probably the monster. What everyone's getting fed to. Probably make some bad noises. Oh. So apparently I can run up and take on 3 guys, just not 4. That's sort of the way this game works. What with the guards and all.
Yes! Double flash! Harpoon! Yes! Double flash! Harpoon! Yes! Harpoon!
Oh, well, that was the way I was supposed to go. Nice. A little short for a stormtrooper. Some good exposition right there. Is she gonna join my party now? I mean, she is on the cover of the game with cool wings, so I assume she's a fighter, but I guess not, at least in this, at this moment.
Double flash!
I'm excited about turning into a Dragoon and getting those cool wings. Even though it sounds like that form is kind of not essential outside of boss battles.
Yes! Double
Still looks pretty cool. I do like the art in this game quite a bit. I mean the character designs, the colors, and the world itself. I do think it is pretty cool looking.
Yes! Double flash!
It is interesting how crucial the guard mechanic is in this game. Usually it's something you don't use a ton in turn-based RPGs, I feel. At least I don't. You know, I use it occasionally. But typically I'm just always on offense. Unless it's like a boss with like a special condition, like a Mist Dragon or something in Final Fantasy IV, where you know you're not supposed to attack for a couple turns or whatever. But outside of that, like I don't really use guard much in these kind of games. Huh. Oh wow. She is a fighter. Cool. She grew up. She's 18 years old now. This is a very weird localization. Can I just say that this is a little. Some of this text is a little strange. I mean, I don't hate it. Like I always find stuff like that endearing, but it's a little weird. Lots of interesting uses of punctuation. Yeah, this is a weird localization. This is I feel like we were kind of past this by 2000. Yeah, that guy's a jerk. Whoa. Kind of itching for a save point right now, I'll be honest. That is true. No. I say keep hope alive. And I, right now, am hopeful for a save point. Feeling good about my odds. I feel like there's gonna be one soon. But right now, I'm just kind of going in circles. These are still blocked off. Okay. Still can't do anything in either direction here, even if with one more party member. That's unfortunate. Can I go down here? Okay. That's how I'm gonna get out. There we go, and there's my save point. Awesome. Alright, well, probably still gonna have a boss to face here. But I think I am going to wrap up this video in this play session right now. But I'm feeling okay about the game. you know, the battles are a little too long. The story is a little bit predictable and lame, and the localization is special. But overall, I'm feeling okay about it. I'm digging it. I think I will kind of continue to come back to it at least for a bit. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you once again for tuning in to this little play session here. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Brawn-Dwarf, BRAWNDWARF. So thanks again for watching, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye.